Hello and welcome along to another season and another episode of this FM22 One Club story from Hemel Hempstead Town with me, Daniel. It's part 81 today, and if you haven't been here before, where on earth have you been? We remarkably make our Premier League debut today against Manchester City. It doesn't get much harder. After undeservedly getting promoted, we finished 6th in the Championship. We won a playoff final that we got absolutely dominated in. But on penalties, we make it to the Premier League. And now starts what I think will be a procession of losing games for the next season. We're going to have a look through our summer transfers today. It's been a very interesting window. We were left with two schools of thoughts in the last episode, and we'll talk about which one we've approached and why. And then, of course, we'll play City in probably the hardest opening game we could have hoped for. You can see the finances have certainly been helped by moving up to the Premier League, but I'd imagine we're coming straight back down. If you want to find out if we do and you're looking forward to the season ahead, please do chuck a thumbs up on it. Subscribe down below and turn that notification bell on for daily FM22 content. Got a season finale tomorrow in the head coach, and there's links in the eye above to the Twitch channel for regular live streams, the football podcast. You can also support the show as a member down below if you wish to, but thank you as always for your incredible support. Now let's get talking about the summer, because it has been insane, I think is the term we'd use. So when we left off in the end of season review last time, we were trying to work out what approach we were going to take. Do we completely overhaul the squad and try and bring in the best possible 11 available, which might give us a better chance of surviving in the Premier League, but realistically probably still wouldn't? Or do we stick with largely what we've got and try and build as if we were still in the Championship with the same targets, so when we do inevitably go back down, we can then hopefully come straight back up? But ultimately, our hand was forced, because if we go and have a look at some of the important bits, and that starts at the club info screen, we haven't had much of a reputation increase. It's just ticked over to 3 in the last month or so, but it was 2.5 star when the transfer window opened, which meant we've not been able to bring in key players. We obviously couldn't renew a lot of the loans because we're only allowed 2 in the Premier League rather than 5. And the likes of Mateus and Thornley, who we'd sold to Norwich as examples, the club wanted 5 million quid for each of them. Our budget was only 25. And they weren't huge upgrades, but they wanted 25 grand a week when our top paid player at the time was 7. And a lot of them, to be honest, ended up going to other clubs, because as soon as we found a player who was good, another club come in and say, well, actually, we think he's quite good as well. Let me give you a point in case. If we go to Wolverhampton Wanderers, who are another Premier League side at the moment, we found a perfect goalkeeping target for the summer. We looked at him and we went, wow, massive upgrade on G-Cock. Young, got the potential to be brilliant, good personality. We offered him more money than Wolves have offered him. We offered him a role as a star player status, and he's gone to be Wolves number 2 instead. So that just gives you an indicator of how hard this summer's been. But what we've ultimately had, if we dwell on it, is a very disappointing summer. And some of you are going to laugh at me, some of the regulars, because I've gained a reputation here for being a little bit tight with money and a little bit restrictive financially and treated it as if it were my own. Well, what if I were to tell you we've come up to the Premier League and I have spent a whopping total of £1.3 million? It's just brilliant, isn't it? What can you do about it? Look, we knew pretty early on, and you can see we didn't actually sign many people early in the window. 13th of June, we got a youngster in, Tommy House from Liverpool, who's just going out on loan again. But in terms of first team signings, we got nothing till July, because we were aiming first for that higher quality of target, and we kept getting outdone by other clubs. So in the end, I just went, let's build as if we were still a Championship team. Keep the wages low, get the money into the club, and try and boost ourselves for next season, and make sure we're ready to be a proper Premier League club in 2 years' time. So we know that means we're probably going to have a lot of disappointment this year. Let me show you the outs before we get into the rest though. So Chijoke Mohammed, one of the youngsters we signed a few years ago, not going to be good enough now. He went for 350 grand to Peterborough, who of course love to sign young footballers. Tommy House, who we signed from Liverpool, I mentioned, has gone out on loan to Aldershot. Just sort of a cheap stab in the dark, to be honest. See if he takes a chance, see if he improves, and if not, then that's unfortunate. But doesn't really play a position we use in our tactic. Just the opportunity to potentially make a profit. Onto this season, lots more players going out, and actually, if we sell Ronnie Stutter, who you may have just briefly seen in a transfer centre screen, we will have run at a profit this summer in the transfer window. So Libero Benitez played a couple of games as a youth player many years ago. Not great, he's gone off on a free agent deal. Rodell Richards for 275 grand has gone to Barnsley, was very much a fringe player towards the end of last season. Jason Ferris off for 105 grand St Johnstone, was improving, did well out on loan last season, but not improving enough to be a Premier League footballer. Brandon Brian Moore, he's gone for Ipswich for 60 grand. He reached his limit. It's a shame because he'd played for us at virtually every level, hadn't he? But he wasn't going to be good enough here at all. Adam Doyle, he goes on loan to Livingston because we couldn't sell him. He's still got a little bit of potential and a good personality, but just not improved, even with game time here and elsewhere. Joe Wilson, the winger we gambled on last summer, has gone on loan to Blackpool. It's a big step up from where he was last season, so hopefully he'll be able to progress because his personality suggests he could be a good player. Adam Wade, not quite fulfilling his potential, and it has dipped as it's gone along, so he's been sold off to Swansea for 250 odd grand. Malaga have loaned Bilal Jesus Garcia, one of many young centre-halves we've loaned out. John Worsfold has gone to Fleetwood for £70,000. He's a young fullback. Again, one of those we got on a free a couple of years ago, but just not quite pushing on to that level we need. And in Josh Berry, I almost kept him because on paper he probably looks like my second best centre-half, but he's the weakest playing out from the back, and that could be an issue in the Premier League where you don't get as much time on the ball. So he's gone on loan to Coventry, Championship football as a regular. If he can do well at that level, he could be a star next year because he has got most of the attributes to be a very good central defender. So they're all the outs. I don't think you were too worried about them. Let me just check in case any were released. No, only youngsters and Stuart Parry actually, who came back from his loan. He's now gone to Grimsby permanently. Let's look at the ins though, because that's why you're all here. And as I've warned you already, this is not a Premier League transfer window. This was looking at if we were still in the Championship and taking out those who want to take advantage of us and get 15, 20 grand a week, who can we get in? I made the active decision at this point that unless a superstar came along, I wasn't going to spend more than 10 grand a week on wages. If we got someone who was 4.5 star, like Hayes, for example, who we looked at, who went to Wolves, if he'd been available, 20 grand a week, no problem. But for slight upgrades, I wasn't going to go beyond that. And in other areas, I've sort of looked at younger players who can potentially reach the level we're looking for, rather than ones that are already made. So we start with Adam Bichelle, who is a free agent. He is a centre forward at 23 years of age, released by Aston Villa, where he played a couple of senior league games. Got a good personality, really good in behind, is an advanced forward or poacher. And looking at the situation with Ronnie Stutter, where he had 1 year left on his contract, rejected a deal on £14,000 a week. I looked at this guy and went, well, actually, you're near enough the same ability already. You've got bigger potential, and we can then sell Stutter for a couple of million. So, looks like a good deal, and if he does well, he'll be sold on. 7 grand a week, much better deal for us. The second one is Ryan Young. Maybe one of the most exciting this summer, despite being a free agent. Joins from Manchester United, 23-year-old Welsh under-21 international. 7 grand a week again. He's a right back. Basically replaces Mateus, who we sold to Norwich, and for me, he's a big upgrade. The third signing is the first one we spent money on, which is Jason Dolnut from Chester. 275 grand, a 20-year-old striker, 2.5 star ability, 5 star potential, youth player at Southampton, played for England under-19s. He's got 2.5 star ability already though, so again, not the worst player. Looking at him as a replacement for Rodell Richards. And it gives us a pretty good, quick, running in behind striking force. I'm going to stick with the diamond. We're going to try and shock teams. Because we have seen before some small budget Premier League teams, maybe not to this extent, but they have shocked in the first season and managed to survive and then suffered from second season syndrome. But if we stay up the first season and get another 100 million, that's when I'll hit hard with the squad. But Jason Dolnut, really good prospect for the future. I hope to see him do really well. The next one is a player you know quite well. We've looked at him a few times in previous windows. Jamie McKenzie from Grimsby. He comes in as an emergency backup at left back. I did try and loan him back, which he rejected. He sort of comes in to replace Thornhill from next year or to make a profit on in the future. One of the two. There was a little bit of doubt about Armin staying as well, but as it happens, Thornhill's got injured. He's now our backup left back and will get some game time. Not really good enough at this level, but again, big potential, and now at a Premier League club with good training facilities, hopefully can make it to the top of his game. After that, we sort of get into the desperate late scramble of maybes, gambles and whatever else. So Glyn Brown Guthrie is the first. Came in on trial, was a decent little centre midfielder. Now, the reason I've added him, despite having enough players in that position, is Camoi Richardson's been linked with moves away a lot of recent windows. We've also had Daniel Georgie, who's got a release clause of 1.8 million. I do have a few concerns about Brown Guthrie because he's awful in the air. He's 5'3", and you know that's going to be a big basis of our play. But he's got a really good personality, could be a good number 10 in the future, and it's quite versatile as well. So someone released from Southampton has had a loan spell at Livingston. He's not brand new to senior football, but won't play a lot of games for us, I'd imagine. Says he wants the team to win a trophy by the end of the season. I think he might be a little shortchanged on that front. The next one is Ian Burrows. He has come in as a free agent at centre-half. 23-year-old, former Welsh youth international. Released by Nottingham Forest. Had been at Crewe, had been at Leicester prior to that. He's a bit of a gamble, but it allowed us to loan out Berry, it allowed us to loan out Garcia and get them the first team opportunities they needed. And with that, we can bring in an emergency centre-half like Burrows. And if he does all right, great. If not, we'll sell him next summer and I'm sure we'll make a bit of a profit. So, again, another one with good potential. No composure, not good on the ball. It'll be cup games at best. Then our final central defender of the summer came in. Tommy Samuels for £35,000. I think he is officially on the highest wage, but he's got massive potential. Another former England youth international. He's a 3-star ability central defender. Little bit better on the ball than some of the others. Little bit taller, little bit more powerful in the air. He's the sort of player who I feel could become a Premier League centre-half. I know it looks a stretch from his profile at the minute, but give it time and I think he could possibly do it. He was released by Arsenal. He's a good player. And maybe we might have to look at that back three again later this year. Try and readdress those defensive concerns by going 5 at the back. But I'm not sure if that's going to be the right strategy either. And the final one, it took a long time to get done. We obviously lost out on 2 or 3 other deals. But we did get a goalkeeper in the end. John Moore comes in from Hibernian. Biggest signing of the summer by far. And a record signing for the football club. £750,000. He is a 3-star ability keeper, but 4.5 potential. So he's not actually that much better than G-Cock to start with. Maybe a slight upgrade. But he's got a great personality, and with football, he will become a star. I'll probably ease him into the season with a couple of cup games, but I can see him being first choice before too long. So I think it's fair to say there's nothing spectacular there. There's nothing that would give you any hope of us staying in the Premier League. And that is reflected if we go to the competition screen. We've got to fight bravely against relegation. Everyone else has played this weekend already. But if we go to the preview, I'll have to turn it round because you won't even be able to see it behind my head. We are 2,000 to 1 to win the league, which I think is a stretch anyway. It should be more than that. But when you consider where everyone else is, they're not just talking about us being the worst team in the league. They're talking about a gulf between us and every other team in the division. The 2 sides that have come up, we saw how many points clear of us they were last year. We snuck in 6th place. We weren't even that great in a championship. And we've now got to compete. And if you go back to when we did this last time, we came up in the playoffs from 7th in the National League. And in League 2, we had 2 awful seasons. Here, I don't think we'll get away with it though. It's not as forgiving. We probably won't survive. But it's going to be one hell of a year. The finances are going to look great. Off the pitch, we're going to be able to improve everything. But if we have a look at the schedule for the start of the season, it's not particularly friendly. Manchester City and Arsenal, the first 2 home games. We go away to Brighton, who finished 17th last year. And in September's massive. The likes of Brentford and Watford. Teams that if we want to stay up, we probably have to beat. I don't see how we do it if we get on a losing run. The positives, of course, the dynamics are very good. We have got a fairly settled squad. And we've still got Ricky J. Jones. And if he's still here, we've always got a chance. I will show you the contracts just to show you. Probably the lowest wage bill you'll ever see in Premier League football. The plan is basically, Starter's going to have to go because he's out of contract next year. And then everyone else, we're going to try and push towards the end of this season. And then if things are going well, we'll just get them renewed. And then we'll offer Premier League wages because we'll know roughly where we're going to be at that point. The chances are, though, we're going down. And this could be a very difficult spell in the series. So coming up too soon doesn't always have its benefits. However, We've got Money in the Bank, and we've got Manchester City coming to Kenilworth Road as we still play 12 miles from home in Luton. So let's go and get through the tactical meeting. Let me know in the comments what you think of the signings, the approach, and the season preview from the media. I've got a feeling it might be accurate this time around. But if we can win a game like this, it will be absolutely crazy. Annoyingly, 2 of our biggest home games of the season, we've got reduced capacity because the upgrade's not finished till the end of the month. But let's go and pick our 11, and this is going to make you laugh because we have gone for a full 11 that started in the Championship last season. We have got a lot of the new signings on the bench. We're going to gradually introduce them to the first team. But I want continuity. And these boys, even if they never play together again in a league game, they've earned a Premier League game as our starting 11. So our team for today is Zach Geacock in goal in the Premier League. Armin and Bennett Sheriff the fullbacks with Badgetic and Taylor centre half. Egan, Flores, Hubert and Doyle the midfield diamond. Georgie staying out because we don't want that release clause to be exercised. And then Stutter and Jones up front. I mean, it's laughable, isn't it? It could be Stutter's last game for the club. £3.1 million from Middlesbrough is the offer, and he'll probably be going. I genuinely believe this is the weakest side I've ever put out in a Premier League game in any save, but I think it will be worth it in the long term. The mentality stays the same, the tactic stays the same. I know there's huge risks, and I know we're going to get battered sometimes. We saw the 9-0 in the Cup against Liverpool a few years ago. Let's hope we can keep the score down. Hemel Hempstead Town v Manchester City, a Premier League debut. What do you think the score will be? Let me know in the comments. No cheating. We'll see how many goals you're out by. Well, Diego Simeone is in charge of Manchester City, and look at the team. They've still got the likes of Sterling, Phil Foden, Ferran Torres in this save as well. Ederson in goal. A few of those got to be getting on a bit. Lautaro Martinez skipper in the side up front, and in the bench, loads more familiar names. The likes of Conor Gallagher, Ben Chilwell, Liam Delap, one of their youngsters at the start of the save. It is a new look back four though. I'm sure it's all very world class. And on the face of it, they seem to have given us a pretty strong team to face. So unless we can catch some teams out on European hangovers, unless we can pick up points against the relegation rivals just by shocking them with a front two, I don't see how we stay up. Well, we've got a throw on the left-hand side early doors. Albi Armin has got it. Plays a 1-2 with Stutter. And the lack of quality in the through ball shows there as Foden wins it back for Ferran Torres to Pedro Porro. We're not even 4 minutes in. And City are pouring men forward. Torres down the right. No pressure on him. Delivers into the box to Martinez. Cuts back. There's plenty of options. Torres is one of them. Oh, it's going to be a long, long season. A very tough, morale defeating, confidence zapping season. I do not see how we get any result. Let's be fair here. We can lose this game 5-0. It's not going to define our season. But it's not looking good, is it? Let's be brutally honest. As Taylor plays out from the back. He's got time on the ball to Egan. We have made it to 27 minutes at just 1-0. But again, as soon as we get into their half of the pitch, they're pressing us and we haven't got the quality under pressure. As Hubert heads away, a Raheem Sterling cross. But it's back out to him, into Lautaro Martinez. And that's 2-0 City. We've only seen 2 highlights, but they're ruthless. Geacock beaten at the near post. Thankfully, he's not our first choice keeper for the season. And in terms of settling the new players in, maybe having our first 2 home games against top 6 sides is a help rather than a hindrance. Because we wouldn't expect the points anyway. We can get in one of those morale boosting friendlies in the international break and then maybe develop. But if you look at the expected goals and the stats, City have only had 2 shots on target. We've had more of the ball. The expected goals is 0.2 each. They've just got greater quality in front of goal. So maybe we shouldn't be that disappointed by the performance. Let's go and get into the second half and hope we don't concede every single shot on target we face. As City give the ball away on halfway to Flores. Max Taylor picks it up at the back. He's the one we need to step up, the experienced man in the squad. Scored that winning penalty, didn't he, at Wembley back in June to get us promoted. And Egan gives it to Hubert. Up to Flores. Some nice possession. And if we can do this, we can preserve our legs, which is another positive moving forward. Simeone's sides have never been big on possession, though. As Egan goes back to the keeper, Zach Geacock. It's weird seeing some of these at Premier League level. Taylor again, to Egan, to Doyle, to Stutter, to Ricky J. Jones. Ricky has scored. VAR will check it. Don't ruin the moment. Don't ruin our big moment. If Ricky's off the mark and gets in form, We're going to be happy. The goal's awarded. And forget how many City score. Ricky J. Jones has equalised. Or not equalised, sorry. Has scored a goal. And now I'm getting ahead of myself. Calm down. It's just one goal. Sterling on the left-hand side. And City, I'm sure, will reinstate their 2-goal lead. As soon as they switch into third gear, they score a lovely move. VAR won't rule that out. It looked onside to me. Maybe a question about Sterling on the left, but Ferran Torres was definitely on. So I think it's going to be 3-1. The goal is disallowed. Still just one in it. It's a pretty good effort. But to be fair, if you look at the stats, it's been an even game. And maybe that's City playing in second gear. Maybe that's City not playing their first team. We don't know what it is at this point. But we've got to enjoy the fact we're competing. As Pedro Porro gets to the byline, Martinez stopped by a brilliant Taylor tackle. We play out from the back again with Hubert, and we've got those bodies up front as Flores gives the ball away. Mariba brings it down for Sterling. Wide to his left back. Don't know what happened there. Little break in the highlight, but straight back to it. And Zagadou finds his keeper Ederson, who's still going strong for City, 10 seasons in, as it's a big switch out to the right. Armin wins the header, but Ferran Torres there first. Great ball for Martinez, and a brilliant save from Zach Geacock. Nearly reached the hour mark, and only a goal behind. We're just under a quarter of the game to go, and City head over from a set piece. We cannot afford to concede goals from them if we want to win any matches this season, as Albi Armin gives it to Stutter. Back to Egan. We're on the front foot. This has been far closer and a far more competitive game than I expected, as Hubert gives it to Egan. God, imagine we nicked a point. I know I'm getting ahead of myself now, but imagine. Egan finds Flores. He's got support from Ricky J. Jones. Doyle's free in the middle. Kamari Doyle shoots, hits the woodwork. Oh my word, we're giving City a fright. We're still going with Armin to Hubert. Finds Flores again to Jones. Wide to Bennett Sharif, up to Ricky J. Jones. Shots blocked back to Hubert, and Ferran Torres heads away. And now the quality of Martinez can catch us on the counter. Back to Ferran Torres on the right. Cuts inside, finds Pedro Porro. Fullback pouring forward, through ball to Martinez. I thought that one was off. I might be proved wrong. Geacock caught in no man's land. And we will have to make subs in a minute. But I think this goal will be ruled out by VAR. It is. Let's go and make a couple of changes. Hubert will be replaced in centre midfield by Camoy Richardson. Terry Clark will come on for Kamari Doyle. And I'm going to give Ryan Young a debut at right back because he's a really good defensive player. And we want to prevent them getting another on the counter. Manchester City still lead by just 2-1. And we've given this one a bit of a scrap, it's got to be said. We play like this every game, we will stay up. But it's a big effort to do it every single week. 5 minutes to go. Despite the effort, I think we are going to lose this game. But I am so proud of that performance. To only lose by 1 goal, to have a pretty competitive game. And on another day, we could have got a point out of that. But Hemel Hempstead Town 1, Manchester City 2. Our Premier League campaign does start with defeat. But the big game is the one coming up next week against Brighton. So the attention will need to turn to that. Well, defeat for the opening day, but it was pretty glorious, wasn't it? We did as well as we could have expected. We're going to be back pretty soon as well. Transfer deadline day is around the corner. We're going to play Arsenal. It's not going to get much easier. And then after that, what I want to know in the comments, let me know, is do you want to see us playing the relegation 6-pointers against the sides that we can realistically win against? Or seeing us get tanked by the best team in the world? Let me know in the comments down below what you want to see. In the meantime, if you did enjoy this episode, a pretty good start to the season in truth, and a bizarre transfer window, please do put a thumbs up on it. Let me know in the comments where you think we're going to finish, what on earth you think of my transfer work. And have you ever seen a weaker side and a lower paid side in the Premier League in FM22? If you want to stay up to date and see if anything changes on deadline day, subscribe down below and turn that notification bell on. We'll be back with it and the Arsenal game in 2 days' time. But in the meantime, we've got a season finale in the head coach. And it's an important one too, over in that save. You can find links in the eye above to the Twitch channel, the football podcast and much, much more. But thank you as always for your incredible support, for joining along for another season. It's going to be a struggle, but by the looks of it, these lads are up for a fight. I'll see you next time.